Okay, yeah. So I'd just like to introduce myself. As My name is Jackson Dion. I'm from the Carrier Nation. Currently live in Prince George, and we're here to share the stories of 60 Scoop survivors and thrivers. 60 Scoop was a series of government policies that led to a large number, about 20,000 Indigenous children in Canada being removed from their families and placed predominantly in non-Indigenous care. And that was from about 1950s to 1980s. And yeah, we have one individual here who is going to share her story. And maybe Rose, you might want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Rose Humphrey. I'm from the Shikwamk Ulu area, Shishwap. Um, from my mother's side, I'm from Kamloops Indian Band. On my father's side, I'm from Skijiston Indian Band. And I am a 60s Scoop survivor. And I'm just on my healing journey and learning to live life on my Red Road journey, and it's really amazing to see all these different resources and that are being offered and available as I'm on this journey, finding out who I am, where I'm from, and my identity. So it's really good to know that there's other resources and people out there that have the same shared experience as I do, and that makes it a lot easier to share my story.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So were you born in Kamloops, or?
Yes, so I was born in Kamloops to my parents Shirley and Jeffrey, and unfortunately, due to 60 Scoop and the things that, because they both attended residential school, and my grandparents did, it was a really dysfunctional dynamic there um, back home, and with the parenting and the lack of skills and things that they didn't know and nobody taught them, it kind of trickled down to not being able to really provide and take care of uh, their children. And I went through my own healing and my own addictions, and that I really understand and empathize why they did what they did. And part of my healing is letting that go and just working with the time I have now, because my parents are both elders and I'm like an elder in training. I'm getting pretty old, but doing my healing by making those first steps to go home. And those steps for me are with attendance with my elder Christy, who's supported me on this journey of finding out who I am. Well, I know the city, the town, and the name, but that really, once you really find out your connection, your relatives, your aunts, uncles, and all that, it's really healing, and to be able to have that opportunity to go back to the land, because I'm really in an urban setting at the moment. I don't really get too much connection to the land, and with my mentor Christy, she's been able to support me, and it's been a, amazing healing journey, and I wouldn't ask and change it for anything.
Hmm. Yeah, so like when I was adopted out, I guess I was like 3 weeks old. Do you have any early memories before the scoop, or?
Um, I was 5 when I was taken away, and unfortunately, there was 5 of us kids in the family, so uh, we were not able to all stay together. So we got taken away to different homes, and it's really hard when you're young, going from school to school, family to family, and that really kind of was hard finding out, feeling like I belonged somewhere, because I was like really not white enough to feel like I belonged with the families that they put me with. And back in the like 80s and 90s when I was growing up, there was still a lot of racism attached to being indigenous and all that kind of stuff. So um, yeah, I moved quite a bit, and I wasn't adopted, but I was placed in so many different homes, and I was separated from my siblings, my community. Um, Never allowed to go to powwows, and we didn't really talk about my culture, heritage in the homes that I was in, and that really impacted me as I got older, feeling like I didn't belong, and that really set me up for a lot of heartache and grief. And I was running for a long time until I really went through my own things growing up. That I quit running and I learned to ask for help. And Creator put me on that journey for a reason, and I felt that with telling our stories that we can start healing and moving forward on connecting all the lost people back to their communities. Like I said, I've been home twice to my community.
Yeah. So, like, how many school changes and how many different families do you know you had?
Ooh. So from 5 all the way till I aged out at 19, it was, see, give or take 40, maybe
Wow.
50 different communities. Like I grew up in the Okanagan, I grew up um, Chase, I grew up in Kamloops, I grew up pretty much all over BC. They had me
Wow.
uh,
Yeah.
going into different, and it was hard because I wasn't able to develop as a young child those skills of bonding, those skills of identity, and that really played a big picture on as I got older, and that resentment that I had towards that.
Mm,
So
yeah. Yeah. So, what events led up to being scooped? Like,
just my parents having their own issues and not being able to parent, like the neglect, the trauma and abuses that they went through. And yeah, it was having 5 kids. I understand why that happened. I wish we got placed in an indigenous home. Maybe that would have made a little bit of a difference. But it back then when I was younger, there wasn't that wasn't the opportunity that I had. So
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like, what? So, this might be difficult. Like, so what kind of impact has this had on your personal and cultural identity? Like, what kind of struggles have you had with identity or culture, or even reconnecting with a community?
for me, I had really started my healing journey like I took with my dad in his sobriety. We've kind of sobered up at the same time, and we've unfortunately had that experience as my birth dad to be able to experience a cultural event for the first time. Like of his 61 years on the planet and my 41, we actually saved and worked together to attend the elders gathering in Edmonton with my birth dad. And for me, that was really amazing to connect with my reserve, my great aunts for the first time. So that was for me really healing, and knowing that I have family out there, because I feel as an adult, I kind of got thrown out to the wolves to say when I aged out at 19, I just really felt disconnected and that I didn't belong. And it really took going through the things that I did to connect finally with my culture, with who I am, and to be proud and strong and use my voice, and um, to go home. It's really healing, like to have that first experience with a loved one on terms where you're both in your healing, you're both sober. So those are really big experiences for me.
Yeah, yeah. So, have you shared the specific challenges that you faced during and after the scoop? Like, what kind of like emotional challenges or social
For
challenges?
me, it was back when I grew up, it was a lot of like racism, like indigenous and being taken away and like, oh, you're alcoholics or they're this that and all those kind of things that I even went through at even in school. Like I was embarrassed to be indigenous. It was like for me it was being bullied and being bullied by the kids that I in the homes that I lived at because we were the real children and that being like just disconnected because I know when I'm with my community and my indigenous community, it's all about respect, about listening, about like just community and just feeling that you belong, even if you're not blood family, you always connected in some way, in some form. And I didn't really get that growing up
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
was moving so often. It was
yeah,
like
yeah, right.
difficult, very difficult. But
Yeah. So if
I'm
you were,
glad that we got our opportunity to share and that more people are coming out with their stories and my own parents' stories about being scooped kind of really helped me on my healing journey to connect with the reasons that they didn't uh, do what they needed to do in the household because of the trauma and that they both experienced
oh,
and the experience from being raised with parents that were also in the residential school. So it kind of like trickled down.
mm. Yeah, so if you were to kind of like sum up the different foster parents, like the dad and the mom type thing, like what type of person would you say that they were like collectively? Like,
For me, I did go through some traumatic things, like things that I'm still healing from till this day about not being treated as an equal, not feeling like I fit in, like I felt like I was a dollar amount or just like a paycheck. And I even remember being diagnosed just so that the family could get some more money. And I overheard that, and I'm like 12 or 13. I remember it so vividly. It's like, oh, I didn't even know that I had it like this, and just pushing everything to really make me feel like a disconnect. Like we didn't do community things. I was always feeling like really disconnected, unwell. From moving so often, it was really hard for me to, find community, find like what it is to be raised by a mom and dad in the same school because I moved so often. And I think that really played a role in my older years because I was running from community to across the provinces, across the world, running because that's all I knew growing up.
mm,
Because something didn't work, oh, we're going somewhere else. So it really took me a long time to be able to find my roots and ground myself and stay in one place because I was from a young age was always moving, and I didn't have that community and that relationship of mom, dad, aunties, uncles. So as an adult now, like I'm 41, I'm just learning all these different ways of connecting to my culture, my community, and a lot of firsts I've had only in this last few years with doing my regalia, uh, a culture camp, along with my treatment and connecting. And I had one foster family that I connected with that I had really good memories with, and I actually connected with them at the powwow with my elder Christy 2 years ago because it was a good memory. It wasn't. Uh, I didn't go through any kind of trauma or anything in their home, and I remember it was the longest 2.5 years that I actually stayed in a home, and their names are John and Diane, and I reconnected with them, and just to let them know that I really was grateful at the time that they took us in, and they did the best that they could to try to keep all of us 5 kids together. But unfortunately, up to social workers and the government, it's like a lot of people don't want 5 kids, so being torn apart at a young age but having one family like John and Diane give me that love, give me that family. So I did connect with them, and they were very supportive on seeing me in my healing journey because I kind of really lost touch with myself and my due to addictions in prison. And after I took the steps to get my healing, I reconnected with the only foster family that I felt that I really had a deep connection with. So kind of brings the whole story together because not all of the families were with were I didn't have any traumatizing events or things happen. So
Yeah. Yeah. So out of all the different places that you went to, you would say they helped you a lot.
yes, yes, they actually try to get us home for events in our community. Um, Made sure that we're visiting our mom and dad regular, like setting up those visits, making sure that we had the things we needed. Um, Activities, all these things, all the good things that I remember happened before I was moved from their home. So I was with them from age 5 to 7.5, so 2.5 years. But those 2.5 years were like the most connected and most family that I felt. And I remember that till this day. So I really connected with them a couple of years ago to thank them and let them know that that was a big thing to me.
Like, was there anything else there? Like maybe family helped you, or the community, or maybe some cultural practices maybe you got into, or maybe
Um, so I recently connected with my birth mom, and our family's pretty small on her side from Tecumseh's Indian band, and I got to meet my uncle. I knew about him growing up through visits, but we weren't close. But he did have cancer, and I spent the last 3 years going back and forth, just getting to know him, being there to support. My elder again went with me to, because for me that was important to know who my uncle was, what his stories were, and that was healing for me. Like he gave me my first drum, and he was a really big person in healing and all this kind of things. And those are some of the things that he was able to pass down to me in the little amount of time that I did get to be with him and all that. So that was really important for me, even though we didn't have a lot of time. At least I had the time that I had going home to do those visits with my elder and staying in the home and being with him at the hospice and just getting those stories and that, because for me that's important, because that's like blood, that's my roots, that's where I'm from. And even though I lost my uncle, he left me with a big huge community of people that opened up their home, and like just unbelievable that experience that I felt coming home on to Kamloops Indian Band and having the elder Steve Basil connect with me and do ceremony at my uncle's wake, and being up at the ranch with my uncle's rodeo buddies, and I'm just making me feel right at home, and just having that ceremony and that fire, because I didn't know about ceremony and about when someone passes the wake. And so I got to experience that for the first time, and that was like healing and understanding like grief and loss. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So, like you mentioned, like you're in recovery now. What kind of steps have you taken towards healing and recovery?
so for me it was being able to get stable housing, um, get into like treatment, because I almost lost my life due to my addictions, and I was at the hospital, and I said I'm not gonna leave here until I've figure out a safe place for me to go, because next time I come back I will not be leaving. Like, I I could overdose, and that's been the big thing. I've lost a lot of people that I used to run with, be in prison with, due to this toxic drug supply. And for me, um, that point of almost losing my life kind of like put up a wall, like, I'm done. I was tired. I'm weak. And I was defeated. And I knew I was defeated, even though I had a home, but it was an SRO, so it wasn't really safe. I wasn't connecting to anything except that lifestyle, and just almost losing my life to some traumatic incidences. I didn't leave the hospital until they found me a resource. I got into a safe place to stay. And then from there, it was doing the treatment that I needed. Say if it was like the methadone maintenance, getting into like programming, counselor, looking for stable housing, which I finally got. I was in market housing for quite some time at the beginning of my healing journey with the rates in Vancouver and housing. It was really hard to go through that. Like, coming from poverty to like, I want to be sober, I want to do this. It takes a lot of community and a lot of support to be able to do that. And today I'm grateful I'm native housing. I got a safety plan. I have my elder on speed dial if something comes up, connecting to community. And this is the first time that I felt a sense of community living here at Native Housing, because I've never experienced what it is to enjoy food together or laugh and enjoy being around other First Nations people, because I didn't grow up around it. And just being in Native housing and connected in my wellness journey, I've connected with a lot of people, and it's like really helps me keep stable and helps me keep me on track. And I got that support network. So it's
Yeah.
like I
So
thank Creator every day for my beautiful home
yeah,
and the
that
people He brought into my life.
yeah. Yeah. So that's currently where you're at, like in terms of family, maybe work or community involvement. You're really involved
Yeah,
in.
yeah. Like even going home, I still don't feel comfortable going on my own, and that's why I do have the support of my elder, and she knows my history and my story. And for me, that's what it's going to take for the next few times to be able to go home and be a part of my community by cultural events, land-based culture camp. And if
Mm.
I have to do that with my elder, because right now I don't feel comfortable going on my own, because I still have a lot of steps and healing that I need to do. But in the company of my elder, she's made the experience and that first time for a lot of experiences that I had in culture and identity. She's taken those first steps with me. So I'm grateful that she's in my life, and I'm learning to use my voice and participating in a lot of events. Sometimes they're not land based events like from my territory, but there are other territories like here in Vancouver. There's a lot of different groups and activities that go on that I do take part in. So even though I'm not in my community, I have community here, and know that I finally, for once, know where I'm from and what that looks like and what I need to do for myself to be connected to that. So
So do you have any hopes for like the indigenous people in general? Like what?
for me, my hopes would be to just have communities have like a returning home, remembering loved ones that have weren't raised on the reserve, like a welcoming home or like a respite, like say if you're coming in. And I remember growing up before I got taken, you used to be able to show up at people's houses and you knew it was an aunt, uncle visiting from here, there. The door was unlocked, you just ate, helped yourself, and they knew, oh, somebody was visiting, and just that whole sense of community when I was little that I did remember before getting taken. Um, I feel that being having a safe place to go when you go home, because a lot of people don't have that connection to an uncle, aunt, or somebody, or people that are still using or drinking, and you don't feel safe going home. Just having a mentorship program where you can have somebody go with you when you do go home, because it is a really big step, and uh, it's important that you feel safe and comfortable doing that.
Yeah, that
That's what worked for me anyways. I don't know if that would work for everybody else, but I'd like to see more mentorship from the urban, because I feel like a lot of us 60 scoops, we kind of displaced ourselves from the land, from our reserves, and like that loss of identity. And I just feel I really want to see that connection of like mentorship between the 60 scoop, the urban that are living at home on the reserve, just to be able to, even if it's being able to help us get home for a culture camp or a mentorship to get to know these things.
yeah. Yeah, I must say that's a really great idea. That's yeah. So, was there anything else that you wanted to share, let the people know about this experience?
For me, it was, I'm grateful that I did go through what I did go through, and then I'm just trying to use my story and my healing to let others know that anything is possible, and there is support. It's just coming out of a place of humility, understanding, because I was a part of that scoop, um, and all the stuff that came along with it, from addictions to neglect to all those things, and just being able to be compassionate and understanding to everybody's story, and using my story to help others know that there is healing, and that healing is available. And for me, it's from alcohol and addictions for almost 20 years to be 4 years in October, to doing culture for the first time, getting my first drum, beating for the first time. Like those are some steps that I've only taken as a middle-aged woman, and that had to do with being scooped up and loss of culture, identity, and language. But I'm just getting that experience now as an older woman to return and be connected, and that's helped me in my healing, and it's helped me create uh, a wellness circle of, okay, I got connection to my land, to my elder, to my community, and then I make the next steps for like, um what do I want and what do I see? And I see more times on the land and getting more comfortable. Maybe one day I'll go on my own and I won't have to be with my elder. But yeah, that's my hope.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you know, you hear about stories about 60 scoop individuals, and then what I'm finding through this process is actually meeting them and going through their the struggles and stuff like that. Because you hear about multiple foster homes and stuff like that, and actually meeting somebody who's actually gone to at least 40 was really something. And yeah, just like to thank you for your courage and openness. And we have some other stories that you could probably see on our YouTube. I'll,
Okay.
yeah, I'll be able to share those with you. And
Okay.
yeah, this has been a very good testimony that you've shared. And like with yeah, you could see a transition from going from all of that stuff there, doing your own healing, connecting with the right people with the right resources, and
Yeah.
finding, yeah, and finding yourself, and going back to in being introduced to your own family that you grew up and came from, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone for watching and encourage further education and support of reconciliation efforts. Yeah, I don't know if you have. So I'll probably end the stream here unless there's something else.
No, thank you everybody for listening. Wellness and healing on your journeys.
Yeah.
Creator has your back.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So I'll end the stream here then.